What's up, ADR fam? Matto here, and
Stevie Z.
yes, we're gonna try to help y'all be great. I can't even do it. So we're gonna share a few things here with you about the quote, some things we've been noticing on the calls, and just this is about better and best, not necessarily good and bad. Everybody's doing a really good job, but just some better ways to tweak this and help just with your sales process. Um, One of the things with the quote, I always like to consider it like it's my commercial, right? Um, and I think with commercials, you'll see them all the time, especially pharmaceutical commercials always come to mind for me. Like they'll tell you all the good something does, all the good, all the good, all the good, and then they'll throw in the bad at the end, like, hey, you may leg may grow out of your right ear, you may die, you may have suicidal thoughts, but they wrote people in the beginning and it still leads to mountains of profits for them. So I think this is all about the approach and how we approach the customer with it. Steve, did you want to talk about a few ways or a way that we're seeing that um, may not be the best or may be confusing the customer?
Yeah, I think what we do a lot of the times is we rush through the quote there at the end. The customers, they're not fully informed. They're a little scared to ask the questions at the end. So they're not ready to purchase a dumpster with us because uh they're just not fully educated on the product, and they're just not gonna rent anything or go out or buy anything if they're not fully comfortable with knowing that they're getting the right deal or the right product for themselves.
Right. And I agree. Um, I think a lot of times and I understand because, I had to deal with a lot of the same fears. Sometimes we get afraid to approach something like the weight and that's included in the dumpster. But I think what's happening a lot of times is we're saying things like, hey, we give a price and we're saying that includes 1,000 pounds or that includes 2,000 pounds. And I think to the customer, unless they're a very educated customer, like a contractor, which if we have a contractor, we can tweak things a little bit. But I think when we have a homeowner and we're saying something like, hey, that includes 1,000 pounds or that includes 2,000 pounds at the landfill, I think a lot of times that's leaving a question mark in our customer's head. And then they don't pull the trigger and they don't go forward. They don't give the objections. Instead, we just get left with, hey, I'll call you back later. Is that kind of how you see that, Steve? Or what are your thoughts on that?
A little bit, yeah. That's how I see it. We're in the dumpster business. We deal with this every day. We know how it works. We know the process. We know how the dumpster game goes. You got to remember our customers. This is the first time they've ever rented a dumpster in their lives. A lot of times they don't know the processes and the procedures and everything behind it. So, in our quote, we want to build and let them know what the process is.
Mm-hmm.
When you're finished with the dumpster, you call us. We place it on schedule to have it picked up for you right away. Once your dumpster's picked up, we're going to take it to the landfill. Where at the landfill is charged by weight.
Right.
Included in the price of your rental is the first 2,000 pounds. So we're building and we're setting the process. We're building a visualization for the customers. That way that they can understand fully how everything works
Right.
and they can make the right decision.
Right. And Steve, those are good points. And I think there's a fine line there, right? So we don't want to like hammer on the negative, but we want to talk about it and we want to shrink it. That's what sales is. You blow up the positive things, you shrink the small things, but you also are the negative things, but you also want to give it to them so it gives an opportunity to pull out the objections. You don't want them to not, I mean, you do want them not to object, but you don't want them to get off the phone with an objection in their head that they don't verbalize because they're confused. So, and I think it's a good point to tell them about the whole process, because keeping the process in my mind was how I always made sure I got the quote out. So I would always do it something like this. I would say, hey, Steve, I'm going to give you our contractor's discount rate. Okay. So that's just 200, that's just 299. So we're going to drop it off. You fill it. You call us when you're done and we come back and pick it up. So I give them that whole process, right? We drop it off, you fill it, you call us, come back, we pick it up. And then from there, I would just pick right up, hey, we take it to the landfill. You may or may not know whether you take it or we take it. They charge by the weight. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to hook you up, or we're going to pay for the first 2,000 pounds of debris. So that's not going to cost you a penny more as long as you're within those 14 days and within the 2,000 pounds, right? So that gives them an opportunity now. I gave them enough information where they can object or say they don't understand. But if I just say, hey, 2,000 pounds comes with it, they're a little confused, I think, and it's causing us to miss opportunities. I think there's a big opportunity here if we present things the right way. And so from there, after I say that, I'm just like, hey, it's also important to know where's a good place to put the dumpster. Is a driveway a good spot? So after I present the price, I come right off of that and right back to the reason which they called, which is they need a dumpster. So I go back to the delivery of the dumpster and where they're going to put it. Got anything else on that, Steve?
Yeah, back to what we're just saying. Hey, it comes with 2,000 pounds,
Right.
and we don't explain the weight or anything like that. It sounds like there's a limit or a cap that's put on the dumpster. You can't exceed 2,000 pounds. You get the question, well, how do I know how much 2,000 pounds is? I don't know how much I'm going to be putting in there.
Yeah.
A lot of people won't even ask that question. Well, I might have more than 2,000 pounds. And again, they're just not educated and they're not comfortable to ask these questions and things like that. So when we just say that it comes with 2,000 pounds or it comes with 1,000 pounds, it puts a limit on what can go into the dumpster.
Right.
Comes across that way.
And I want them to say, how do I know what 2,000 pounds is? Because I have an answer to that, right? So if Steve were to say, hey, how do I know what 2,000 pounds is? I say, hey, Steve, good point. It's tough. I don't know what 2,000 pounds is either. Hopefully you don't go over it. And I want to enlarge that. Like, hopefully you don't go over it, right? It's no big deal though. If you do, it's just $49 per 1,000 pounds. So I try to enlarge the fact that hopefully they don't go over, and shrink what happens afterwards. If you do go over, it's still affordable. It's only $49 per 1,000 pounds, or $59 or $69 or whatever it is. I want to get that out of them, because if Steve keeps that bottled up inside, he's just going to say, I'll call you back later. And he's going to call somebody who makes it a little bit more understandable. And he's going to go with that, even if it's a higher price, because all of the question marks are gone, right?
And remember, questions are good. It shows that they're interested. So when you're not getting the questions is when you should be worried.
Yeah.
with
Especially if they're not renting, you're not getting questions. If you're not getting questions and they're renting, it means you're covering everything. You're doing a good job. But if people aren't renting and they don't have any objections or any questions, to me, that was always a red flag. Like, hey, I've got to tweak something a little bit. You know, a lot of times from there, I just have to get back to the basics, which is polishing up my presentation, this quote or my intro, and maybe I needed a little bit more energy or whatever. But bottom line, don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid to approach the weight. Always throw it in there. You know, just make sure you do it with the right tactics and techniques. So, anything else?
It's guys are doing a great job. Let's just make sure that we explain the process to the customer. That way that they can make a great decision and be comfortable going with us here at the company. And remember, that's what Z said.
And we're at your disposal with a smile.